Hello there.
John, what are you doing?
I hit the wrong button.
You're killing me over there. You scratched the record that is our intro.
Well, records are meant to be scratched.
See, that reminds me of a joke that I stole the other day. Records are meant to be scratched. Records are meant to be broken.
Do you ever write jokes? I thought you only stole jokes.
Yeah, I've got nothing more than that. This is our first show back in like 4 months, dude.
I know. I'm going to make more mistakes, though. Guaranteed.
What does that mean? You mean in addition, beyond the intro mistake?
Being here.
Being alive?
Right. That one.
What can you predict any of the mistakes that you might be making today?
No. I will not predict. I'm not Nostradamus.
You're not Gene...
Siskel?
No. Who was the lady from the National Enquirer, the world's best psychic? Gene...
Siskel?
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm thinking of.
I don't get it.
Gene Harris or something? Remember,
Hackman?
She used to be like Gene Hackman. Yeah, Gene Hackman is a she. And I don't know. Do we have some explaining to do? Like where the hell we've been, for crying out freaking loud?
I can't explain it. It's life takes over every once in a while, and priorities. And the show was
a minority.
Bottom dog.
The show was backburnered.
Right. The show was backburnered.
I was all about the show, but John, basically no.
Well, I've got responsibilities.
Yeah. That's
Children.
right. I understand. Absolutely. But we are back.
We are.
It's our first show since July something or other.
I don't even remember.
It was July, I think. I can't swear to that, though.
To quote a retired Army general, I think he was, or admiral maybe, who am I and what am I doing here?
I will return.
Wrong one.
No, that was
why
Mac.
don't we introduce the
guy,
special guest we
have? The guy in leather.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, since we are Bloodthirsty Vegetarians, you have to be a vegetarian for the duration of the show. So we'd like to, an honorary vegetarian for the duration of the show. We have like a guy like me, a guy with like a ski on the end of his name, except I don't have a ski on the end of my name.
What happened to it?
I never had one. I have an S and a Z.
That's more difficult.
Yeah. We have Lech Kowalski, who's a guy I met. His reputation had preceded him. Pre-sowed. Isn't that the right
that's a farming term, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. Let's see. Should I tell the story?
How did you meet Lech?
I met Lech for the first time like 3 or 4 weeks ago at The Other Side, which is a kind of a community space that the cafe where we did our one and only other interview was on location, which was with a filmmaker, by the way. And I'm surprised you don't know him because he hangs out at the cafe, Lech.
Believe me, that was the most torturous show for Rich because there were other noises going on, people banging glasses.
Plates in the background.
Every time someone picked up a cup to sip something, his hair stood on end.
Yeah, worse than a 60 cycle.
There's nothing. We had a lot of 60 cycle actually, and we solved it, though. I can remove it digitally. Anyway, so let's see. I've known about Lech because Lech has been doing a little project kind of following Kim and Oren Domenico, the owners of Cafe Domenico.
That's right.
Around, and he's been filming them, and he can talk about that. Actually, he's going to be here for our show next week, too. He's coming back, so we'll actually talk about his filmmaking.
I'm going to fly back to New York.
That's
and
right.
Take a car up here and
that's right.
Hang out in New York Mills. Can I say that?
Yeah, we are. Oh, and by the way, we are
undisclosed location.
We are at an undisclosed location in New York Mills. Which, by the way, we used to record in Fayetteville at the Fairfield Glassworks and Tape Dispensary, which was John's studio, and now we're recording at the Green Man Foam Works and Winery.
There you go.
It's good wine, by the way.
We'll it is good. Well, we talk about that too because we always give props to the vintners when we drink their stuff.
What is it anyway? Let's just get that out of the way.
Well, that's another story. I have a friend who lives in the Napa Valley in California, and he's become a pretty good friend. I've never met him. I only know him through the music business.
So you're close.
We're very close, and he is a member of all of the great little boutique winery wine clubs out there. And in his house at any given time, he has a couple of hundred bottles.
Wow. And
he sent me 4 or 5 bottles a few months ago, and this is the last. And I've been saving this for the podcast. This is a 2002 Villa, depending on what country in Europe you're actually from. Villa Toscano Syrah. And
how would Sarah Palin pronounce that?
She would say Alaska. Actually, I think.
No, we say
you
this
betcha.
Because, you betcha, right?
She'd wink a lot.
She'd make the gun.
There'd be a lot of winking, and she'd say, "Drill, baby, drill." And I don't know if that was her sex life she was talking about. I don't know what's going on with
There
that.
was a sex tape. I think it was called Nailin' Palin. Did you see that?
Yeah, I am aware of that. All right, so my friend Eric Nicholson, who's in a great Beatles tribute band, by the way, called the BBC. You can put in Beatles tribute the BBC on YouTube, and you can see their little All My Lovin' video that they have on YouTube. It's great. In fact, we'll link to it. So thank you, Eric Nicholson, for this wonderful bottle of wine. And,
Merci. Thank you.
Merci. Dziękuję.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Yeah. And anyway, so Lek, we're all over the place here. And we are recording, I think, which is good, because once we accidentally didn't record and we thought we were recording. What a debacle that was. So I heard Kim and Oren Domenico talking about Lek, so his reputation kind of preceded him.
Only good things, I'm sure.
Well, he said something about square-headed bastard, and I seem to recall something about Oren saying that. I don't know. I may have been a little drunk. I don't know.
I don't know. Whatever he said, he said.
And so we have a local pollster named John Zogby, and anybody who's familiar with the election process, pretty much
Pretty
in the
big
United
name
States,
in polls.
is
Not Polish people, in polls.
That's right, polls.
Yeah,
right?
in polling.
yeah.
Yeah, and he came to speak at the other side, which is kind of a community center little thing that they do at the Cafe Domenico, and Lek filmed it, and I asked Kim to introduce me because I had heard so much about Lek, and since we both have skis on the end of our name, even though I don't.
The title of the film is Polls on Polls?
Actually, that's the title of this show, actually. And so I met Lek, and I had a nice chat with him and his partner, Odile, a Parisienne.
A French producer.
Yes. And we had we talked for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
His mom lives right around the corner from the cafe, so I walked him over there.
Excellent.
And then I said, geez, we got to get you on the show.
And now he's on the show.
And the guys...
And you actually called your partner.
That's right. I actually called John while we were talking, while Lek and I and Odile were talking. I called John and said, dude, we got to get this guy on the show, yo.
I don't think that you can pull that off, really. The whole ghetto speak.
Yeah, well,
so you should stop.
No, dude.
You really should.
No, I don't have to stop. We got to get you talking in your mic, though.
I always thought dude is such a really strange, very sort of like unpleasant term. Is it? Dude? Do you like it?
I don't dislike it.
Is it
Why
like
do
a generational thing,
Why
like
do you
if you're
dislike
born,
it?
Dude, it just sounds so like, hey, dude. It sounds like a TV show.
Well, it is kind of a, yeah. I mean,
think
it
what
is.
happened with us, I don't know if for Rich I won't speak, but I'll speak for myself. What happened with me is I started using the phrase just to mock the people who say it casually, and then it started to creep into my own speech, and now I use it without even realizing it.
Yeah, and for the Spanish, it would be vato. Vato. Hey, vato!
Does Bill Gates use that term?
You know
Probably.
what? Bill Gates, yeah, he's in bed with Melinda, and I'm hearing a lot of dude and dudette, I'm sure. So, our first show back, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about, but something really monumental happened.
Lots of stuff happens.
But something that's never happened before in the history of the United States, America, happened very recently, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Instant replay in professional baseball. Blew my aura that they actually finally instituted the instant replay.
Wow.
We talked about that about 6 or 17 shows ago.
Yeah, except they hadn't instituted it yet. But now they've instituted it. This
they've
is like
used it.
the first time in the history of the United States of America, maybe the most significant first in the United States of America in the last 50 years.
But it's bigger than Obama.
Right?
Who?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Frankly, the man offends me because he pals around with terrorists. I hear.
Yeah, I know. Well, except they didn't really talk about Sarah Palin's husband, who was palling around with a radical separatist who actually wanted to get Alaska to secede from the United States of America and promoted some very violent means of doing that.
Forget about Palin.
I can't forget about Palin and those clothes and the skirt. Oh, yeah.
Forget about Palin's husband. Palin herself, she actually spoke at one of those meetings, maybe several, and she would say all the time that I believe in all of your core values, meaning separating from the United States, and nobody covered that.
Yeah, that was ignored.
But actually, when I heard that about the two of them, that's when I became interested in them. That is the most interesting thing about those two.
Yeah, they seem kind of bland other than...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I saw Ariana Huffington from the Huffington Post.
Yeah. Which I read religiously.
Yeah, and she has a blog, and Zogby actually writes a column on her blog. And, she's sort of this interesting woman with a hard-to-identify European accent, maybe
Greek.
Hungarian. Oh, she's Greek.
She's Greek, yeah.
Because it's got a real Zsa Zsa Gabor vibe, that Hungarian. So I was
yeah.
thinking she might have been from Hungary. But she was talking on the Larry King show. Hi, Larry. And she said something which I guess I knew intuitively, but hadn't really formed this complete thought in my mind. She said, Sarah Palin shows no intellectual curiosity, and that is why she shouldn't be the vice president of the United States. And I said, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, when they interviewed her about what newspaper she reads, she couldn't name a freaking newspaper.
She's pretty amazing. But you know
what's going on with that?
But Huffington, she was married to somebody called Huffington. That's how she got that name.
Yeah.
But I think she was a Republican. Hardcore Republican.
Really?
Before. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I did not know that, sir.
You wouldn't know that by reading that her thing, whatever you want to call it. It's a newspaper online. But,
yeah.
But I love it. I think it's great. Although it gets a little tiresome because it's a little dogmatic. It's like a little too left wing.
Is that possible?
Yeah. I don't know. Read it.
That's my chair squeaking, by the way. I have the noisy chair today, so I'd like to apologize for that.
Well, we will strike it down.
So, yeah, I guess there has been another significant first in the history of the United States of America. We have Jackie Robinson breaking the color line. We have, African Americans being allowed to sit on the front of the bus in Selma, Alabama. And we have a black man as president-elect of the United States of America, Barack Obama. Golf clap.
In case anyone doesn't know.
Right.
There are though.
This isn't breaking news.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like hasn't been on this show. He doesn't realize that we're time shifted here. This isn't live. We're not broadcasting.
Yeah, we aren't broadcasting. People listen to this at their leisure when they download the MP3.
This might be months or years from now.
That's right.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Absolutely.
Because this is fun. This is funny for me because here we are. I'm facing all kinds of very. The technology in front of me is very expensive, and there's a computer here that's very fancy. It doesn't work, but it's very.
It's an Apple.
It's awesome.
But anyways, what is a podcast in terms of you can go on the internet, right, and listen to it on the internet, but you don't see an image. You just listen to it, right?
Yeah, it's not. They have these things called vodcasts or vlodcasts, where people are doing video podcasts. Well, John can talk about that a little bit. I've been hogging the mic, and I'm going to make an adjustment on yours while John's talking.
All right. Well, a podcast is essentially a radio show that you record and you publish it online, and people can subscribe to it. So what they'll do is they'll take their iPods or any type of other MP3 playing device, and they'll sync it up with their computer, and it'll download all the latest episodes. So if you subscribe to the show whenever we release it, which will be probably 4 or 5 days from now.
Monday. We release on Sunday at midnight. Monday.
Right. It's like Camera War.
Yeah, exactly, because you release, which we'll talk about a little later.
Right, so it's like a blog in the sense that we can post something on that, and people who subscribe to, say, like an RSS feed or any other type of feed, if they've got like a news reader or something, it will automatically update and show the latest postings. But in terms of a podcast, the audio file itself will download right to their device, so they can just listen on the road. Like what I do is I get all the latest podcasts in the morning, and on my commute, I'll listen to the shows.
So if I'm because I don't have a blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I have my computer. So if I want to listen to this, what do I do?
You could actually go to our website, and on every posting, like a blog, if you're used to blogs, we've got a link on every post, which will show all of the things that we've talked about, but the link itself it'll say listen up. When you click on that, it'll download the audio file, and if you've got your machine set up, it'll play the audio file, or you can download it and just double-click on it once it's finished downloading.
That's cool. So it's like old school and new school combined.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when John started talking to me about, he suggested that I do a podcast by myself, like
he roped me into
3 years
too.
ago. Yeah, it was this evil roping of mine. I actually did rodeo work in my spare time.
A clown mostly.
Yeah, I was the clown. That's right. You're a fun guy. And so John, and I know I've told this story once before, but John had suggested that I do a podcast on my own, which struck me as absurdity.
He didn't want to talk to himself.
I didn't think I would really have that much to say by myself. Doing a podcast by myself. And John had just gotten his first MP3 player as a Christmas gift, as I recall, and that's how John discovered the world of podcasting. And
this
so
is years ago.
This is 2005.
Yeah.
This is like March of 2005, the genesis of our podcast, if you will. And then I said, let's do one together. And then we brainstormed back and forth about like what exactly we were going to do with this podcast and like what it would be called. John came up with the name Bloodthirsty Vegetarians. Put that stake down, Lek. And
yeah, well, maybe I can enlighten Lek as to how the whole thing got started, because I was intrigued by the idea of podcasting, because it was kind of like what you see on YouTube these days, where the masses are taking control of the media. It's not broadcast agencies and corporations saying what should people be listening to and filled with advertising. It's the ground up, the groundswell saying, let's create content that's meaningful, no rules, no boundaries. If you want, you can swear on the podcast and don't have to worry about repercussions from the FCC. And people can listen to it, and they can cherry pick. They can listen to all sorts of content.
This is great. You took the words right out of my mouth. This is exactly why I did Camera War. Except it's not a podcast; it's a film on the internet. But
right.
It's more than television, and it's more than the movies. It's like something totally different. This is what you guys are doing. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and we you know, and
we're not beholden to any advertisers. Which is really important.
And every once in a while, I drop an F-bomb. It's very rare. But the simple fact of the matter is, the music we play, we've heard more cursing in the music that we play than we actually do. Not that we're trying to make it a G-rated show, but you know,
I naturally. Well, there you go. You just bumped us up. I naturally censor myself because I'm around my children all the time.
And since we were recording in John's house, and actually I remember one time when one of your daughters snuck around through the laundry room and ambushed us, and we didn't even know she was there.
Right.
And she was listening because we let one of his daughters podcast with us one day, and then she was, you know, keenly interested in doing it again. So she kind of snuck around into the laundry room and ambushed us from the rear. And if I had said something like, "Fuck, John, what's going on?" You know, we don't want to expose his children to foul language.
Well, you realize that if she grew up to be some prostitute or something, I'd blame you.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
For the one F-bomb.
But there's a lot worse stuff around than the F word.
Well, there's hate.
Like the truth.
And racism
right. And that's the stuff I try to protect my kids from and teach them right and wrong about.
I
don't really care so much about
truth?
I protect them from the truth, because the last thing I want them to hear is the truth.
That's right. So, you know, back to the
Santa
election.
Claus is big in our household.
So, Lek, you know, filmed John Zogby, the famous pollster, speaking at the other side, and then, you know, we became fast friends, and, you know, he named his child after me, actually. It's not commonly. Well, retroactively. The child had another name, but he went back and renamed the child Richard.
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. I had such a
Hooked
profound...
up with Schwarzenegger in a time machine, and he's also...
I had a profound influence on Lek's life. And, you know, this is the beginning of some bizarre sharing multimedia relationship of some kind.
Well, and it's great because, you know, we'll talk about this probably later, probably on next week's show.
That's right.
But I took a look at some of the work that Lek has done. And
I've watched every one, by the way.
And it does strike me as this whole, let's take control of the media in film format. I've done some, as I was describing to Lek before the show, I've done some work on some independent student films, and it reminded me a lot of that, because it wasn't...
What are you saying?
It wasn't the
formulaic... production values of his films are low?
No, the production value is irrelevant, is what I'm saying.
That's right, and it really is.
Right. And
we go for a high production value here on Bloodthirsty Vegetarians.
For unknown reasons.
Most podcasts, however, have no production values.
They record it with a microphone and some wire.
They record it with a wire recorder and 2 styrofoam cups connected by string.
Right. So I'm really excited that Lek is here, because I think that it's a great relationship, like you're saying. Hopefully he doesn't run screaming from the place.
That's right. Well, he can't. I'm his ride. So, you know, he may be riding shotgun screaming, but, you know, I don't know. He may have to call Oren for a ride home. Who knows?
Well, there you go. Well, that could be dangerous in and of itself.
That's right. That's right.
You might have to talk about nuclear weapons.
Well, he might have to talk about cameras being evil or something. I don't know if you saw the latest piece.
I did. That was the one that I think we'll talk about next time.
We'll talk about later. So anyway, we've had this election, and you're not a citizen of the United States of America, are you, Lek?
No.
Oh, come on, get it close to that mic then.
I don't vote.
You travel on a British passport, yes?
Yes.
So you have one citizenship. It's United Kingdom?
I have a Polish one. I have a British one, and I guess I belong to the European Union, so it makes me 3.
So the European Union has its own entity that you can become a citizen of the Union instead of citizen of just one of the countries?
You become a citizen of the Union, but you cannot vote in the country that you're... In other words, I'm British, but I can't vote in France unless it's for a local election in Paris.
Okay.
And that's something new. I'm not sure about the other countries.
But you can have citizenship of the Union and not just of the
Yeah, it's a sort of de facto citizenship. It's
This is new. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things you don't know, I'm sure.
Well, I absolutely. I'm the first person to admit that I'm an empty vessel.
As we age, we realize just how little we know.
John in particular, actually.
Right.
Well, this is the thing that I really pride myself is not knowing that much.
That's right.
I mean, I'm really serious. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not even interested in politics in the obvious way. It's more dynamic to be here in the States shooting when this election is going on because it's an interesting election and you sort of make up the politics as you go along. And it's kind of obvious which is right and wrong. You know what I mean? So it's not like I don't care about fucking Republicans or Democrats or independents. It's the other stuff that I'm interested in. Like for instance, the Nader thing that I shot a few weeks ago in the States.
I met Ralph.
It was so obvious what the reality is, and he's
speaking the reality. Yeah. Ralph got minimized. Back in 2000, he was pegged by some of the Democrats as the reason that Al Gore lost. I suspect there were other reasons that Al Gore lost in that election.
Yeah,
and
like it's called a criminal offense.
Yeah, cheating, things like that.
Well, but the people who
excuse me, I didn't finish my thought.
Well, I've got something for you. The people who say that, they're determinists. They think that there should have been a way, when in fact the reality is he lost because of the Supreme Court decision. It wasn't Nader's fault. Nader was doing what the process should allow him to do.
To me, democracy means more candidates, not just two or one in the case of Soviet Russia for many years.
One.
The Iron
Absolutely.
Curtain, in fact.
Or the USSA where you have two parties, which means the same thing. Yeah.
Two corporate parties.
exactly,
and one of the things that Nader is always talking about is how there are two parties that represent the corporations. So what is our choice? Yeah, there are some differences, some minor minutiae that they argue on, abortion, and I'm sorry, what else are they arguing on?
Raising
these days?
taxes or lowering taxes.
No, but I don't buy that. I think the Republicans play the game that the Democrats like to raise taxes. But, ever since the Reagan era, the only people that had taxes lowered were the elites. That was what the Reagan era was about. It was a revolutionary redistribution of wealth through taxation.
Well,
don't wave your hand at me.
There's a reality thing, and then there's the rhetoric thing. I mean, if we're talking about the election, the rhetoric is always, this person is a terrorist, this person hangs out with terrorists, this person's going to raise your taxes, he's going to make you miserable, the other person's going to lower your taxes too much, and he's going to kill babies and all of that. And none of it has anything to do with reality. It's always pandering to whatever base, quote-unquote, base there is.
Hey, Lek, we want to get you in here to talk about politics.
Lek is filming now.
He's like filming furiously.
Well, you know what I'm filming with is one of these little portable cameras, which are pretty amazing. I mean, this camera here is like your studio.
What's the resolution on that?
It's very high.
It's incredibly high.
Is it good enough quality for you to cut into your films?
Yeah, I've shot some stuff for the series with this camera.
Oh, great!
And we're gonna, in fact, some of that material we're gonna blow up to 35 millimeter. So
wonderful.
It has tremendous potential. But I mean, this is it. This is like technology is like kind of saving the world in a way. It's killing the world and saving it.
It's a great equalizer because.
Yeah.
The internet has allowed people like Ronald Jenkins, this really obscure, strange keyboardist, to get exposure. 20 years ago, nobody would have known who Ronald Jenkins is, and now he's mixing with some big hip hop artists and mixing beats for these guys. And what about Chocolate Rain, Tayson Day?
Right. I mean, the irony is that the corporations are the ones that have kept these people off the front page. Right. But the corporations also have invented these amazing fucking gadgets that I'm shooting with right now.
Well, they don't realize that they're creating their own demise.
That's right. Yeah, in some ways they are.
This is the irony, and where is it going to end? I don't know.
I hope it does end with them just being the manufacturers, and they have no control over the media.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
But you know what really pisses me off? I travel around the world. I shoot a lot of stuff. I have to get things from one country to the other. That's not always on the internet. And who gets paid first? The shipper, FedEx.
It's true.
Always gets paid first, no matter what. Well, whatever your budget is, the FedEx gets that money first.
They gotta. That's a good business to be in.
Before I get the money, before you get the money, they get the money first.
I don't have money. I'm unemployed, by the way. I think the last show we did, was I unemployed at that point? Or I think I predicted perhaps the demise of my job. There was a little foreshadowing, but I don't know that. I am, as John politely put it once, between jobs.
You're unshackled.
I am unshackled, and I got to tell you.
It's the best thing that happened to you. Really?
No, it
now
is.
what you should do is collect your unemployment for 1 year.
If I could.
Spend that time like figuring out how to self-employ.
Well, no, that's my goal.
That's
And I
his
talked
plan.
about it with John, and he scolded me, actually.
I'm completely shackled, by the way. So I'm
John
really
is-
You're
vicariously.
married, right? You're
yeah,
married,
I'm
so,
married
you know.
with children.
With children, yeah. So,
He's
not that it's a bad thing.
he's Ted
No, it's
Bundy,
awesome.
actually.
Yeah.
But
Are you right wing? I mean, do you write with your right hand?
I'm writing with my right hand, but in terms of political leanings, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Well, it's funny because I'm registered independent because I didn't want to claim membership to any of these ridiculous groups because I'm dissatisfied with both of them. But at the same time, I'm sort of a strange
sorry.
beast. I'm a Catholic, but I
Wait a minute, an Italian Roman Catholic?
That's true.
Nonsense. Madness. Scandal.
But the thing is, I try to actually follow the tenets of the what the faith should be, and that means that I can't be on the religious right. I have to actually lean closer to the left, which is weird because people don't think that people who are religious or Christian in this society can be on the left.
I'd like to point out that John believes that dinosaurs and humans were walking the earth together
I do
4,000
not.
years ago.
That's a lie, sir.
And he actually was Sarah Palin's flute instructor in her early days in Alaska when she was doing the Miss Alaska pageants, and the flute was her
He was a choreographer. Get it straight.
That's right.
Let me throw in something serious.
Okay.
I had a 85-year-old woman here in Utica.
Like when? Does Odile know about this?
No, you're cutting into the joke. Excuse me. This was 2 days ago. She doesn't know anything about it.
Oh, it's good.
85-year-old woman who is a Catholic. I won't mention her name.
Was it Mary?
She's a registered Democrat her entire life. She works for the Democratic Party. She's works the polls. She said to me,
Whoa,
she said
again,
to-
there's a pun.
Yeah,
She works the
ha.
polls.
And she's one of them too. And she said, I voted for McCain. I said, well, that's a surprise. And she says, it's because the other guy kills babies.
Oof.
Right.
He's a Muslim.
This is the thing that kills me in a figurative sense. Is that,
Since you're still alive,
Since
we
I'm right.
gathered that. Yeah.
right, and Rich and I have talked about this all over the place.
We've been known to go on CNN and
People
actually talk
throw
about
out this whole fact that because Obama is quote unquote pro-choice means that he actually wants to kill babies.
Yeah, right.
and people think that because McCain is quote unquote pro-life that he wants to prevent
He wants
death,
to kill mothers,
right?
actually. Yeah.
When in fact I've always rationalized it as who will be best for life in general, all across the spectrum, from birth to death, in natural death that is, who would be best for that? And you look at McCain's policies, and I felt that McCain would actually cause many more deaths in these ridiculous wars, and without helping the underprivileged, the poor. This is a person who is not really pro-life, but he takes this pro-life stance. And even though Obama is quote-unquote pro-choice, I felt that he actually cares more about the life of every single person in this society, from the ground.
Do you know
all
what
the way to
McCain
the
was
top.
doing yesterday on that wonderful bank holiday?
What was McCain
He
doing?
went to the tomb of the unknown plumber.
There you go.
I stole that from Letterman's writers, by the way. Letterman said that last night, and it actually made me laugh out loud. And not a lot of things make me laugh out loud.
But why was this past Veterans Day parade in New York the biggest in the history of New York? What is this? Is this like really a militaristic kind of country or what? I mean,
I think...
tell me what's going on.
Well,
ever
because we have a lot
since
of people fighting in Iraq, and there are a lot of young veterans.
Well, it's the propaganda that the right uses to get the masses to, and obviously we all support the troops, and I heard a woman during the first Gulf War back in 89-90, back when George Herbert Walker Bush was president of the United States. I saw on like Donahue or something, and one of the people was one of the people. What did I say?
One of those people.
One of them. Now I'm Ross Perot. You people. Remember when he got in trouble for saying "you people"?
Right.
One of the guests on the Donahue show was talking about how she supports the troops, and she said, and I quote, "Except I support them to live, not to die
Exactly.
in an
Yeah,
immoral, ridiculous campaign, illegal." What happened to declaring war? I'm sorry. We haven't done that in 50 years. Okay, yeah.
Well, because it takes laws.
But why do we need
overcome.
war? First of all,
Well, we
is
don't.
it-
I'm not arguing for war,
yeah.
but I'm saying if you're going to go to war, at least declare it. As far as I know, the Constitution actually requires
But
it.
I guess they've got to use all those gadgets and stuff, right?
Well, we pay a lot of money.
That's true,
We-
because
we got a lot of toys. as
What
they
ends
say.
up happening is you stockpile these gadgets, and if you don't break them, there's no one to replace them. So
Yeah, but if you break them, you call, the Roto-Rooter man or something, and you fix them, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. What the hell are we talking about?
I don't know.
We got to get Lek involved.
The question,
I'm
the question was why do we have such a huge Veterans Day? My opinion of that is that because we're in the midst of several battles, and we have a lot of new veterans, a lot of disabled veterans, in fact.
And I think
There's a lot of homeless guys who are veterans in New York that I met recently.
Oh,
you know?
I don't doubt that at all. In this current economic crisis, there's certainly more homeless people now, and more foreclosures and more bankruptcies than ever in the history of probably in the history of the United States of America. And so
at least all of
certainly
our
a
lifetimes.
certain percentage of them are going to be soldiers. But I think the American citizens take their, and I don't know, maybe I'm using a bad word, but I think they take the responsibility of believing in and supporting the troops very seriously, because it is a service job, right? And deep down, I know every one of these guys is doing it for the right reasons, except their commanders are abusing and taking advantage of that need and want that these people have to do the right thing.
I think it's a gig for a lot of the guys.
Well, economic conscripts, for a lot of them, they're economic
in this
conscripts.
town, in this little village you live in, if things get worse and worse than they are economically, and places are closing down, guys are going to go to the service to have a job.
Yeah,
right?
and that's economic conscription. They're not being drafted, but there's not a lot of choices, so they join the army, And in the abstract, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. But when you have immoral and unethical and evil leaders sending them to do things that...
Yeah, but if you're a high school kid and you're like a senior and you're saying, shit, what am I going to do next year? Well, there's no jobs. I think I'm going to join the army. You're not joining the army because you want to join the army.
No, I
You're
agree,
joining the
yeah.
army because you have nothing else to do.
Well, and it is possible to get an education through the GI Bill.
Actually, I think the army would really help a lot of these American young kids to straighten out, quite honestly.
Well, it might.
The
it might.
TV generation, man, They
Yeah.
can't even...
We got to get Oren here to talk about that.
It'll expose them to harsh realities, and at the same time, most of them get shipped away, and they spend some time overseas. They can see the world,
Right, yeah.
and they can
just watch the bullets. That's
Remember
all.
those commercials? I don't know how much time you spend.
They can see the world, meet interesting people, and kill them.
Well, yeah, that's right out of Full Metal Jacket, by the way. That was Private Joker's line. But there was there used to be these commercials in the 70s, and I don't know where you were in the 70s, but they were the like.
I was in New York.
But you remember the action, adventure,
That's
join
right,
the
yeah,
Navy,
yeah.
And then Saturday Night Live did a really brilliant spoof where they took that music and then they showed guys scrubbing toilets, which is probably really at
Well,
the
the
end of the day what
propaganda-
most of them are going to be doing.
The propaganda was it's not just a job; it's an adventure.
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
that
right,
was
right,
the,
right,
and then the
right,
Army, that was Navy, but the Army used one where they we do more before 5 a.m. than most people do in a day. They showed like a Jeep parachuting in, and they're probably right. Lord knows, since I'm between jobs, I sleep till 9. So by
Join the army, man.
well, I'm a little old.
They won't take him.
Over 25?
Yeah, I don't think I know I don't look it, Lek, but I think I'm a little beyond the
No, but
minimum age
there are people that are
requirement.
55 years old fighting in Iraq, so you're not too old.
Except they joined when they
But
were
they were-
of
when they were
age.
18, yeah.
But they won't take you unless you're like under 35 or something.
Really?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Not
I'm too
yet,
old.
not yet. But
Yeah, right.
Just
They're
wait.
gonna-
They're
Just
going to lower
wait.
that bar.
They may lower that bar when.
You mean raise the age limit, right?
That's right, or however you want to look at it. Let's drop into a tune right now. Let's take a little break, and
Sure.
we'll play a little music. And this one is really kind of special, and we'll play it and see what you guys think of it. Hit it.
It's autumn in the country, I remember how warm a wind blew here about the ways, and shadows on the hillside lay to slumber during the long sun-sweetened summer days. It's cold abroad the country, I remember the swallows wearing skim the golden grain at midday, with a wing aslant and limber, and yellow cattle browsed upon the plain. It's empty down the country, I remember I had her sister lovely in my sight. Her hair was dark, her eyes were very somber. We sang together in the woods at night. It's lonely in the country, I remember the babble of our children fills my ears, and on our hearth I stare the perished ember, two flames that shone starry through my tears. It's dark about the country, I remember there are the mountains where I lived. The path is slushed with cattle tracks and fallen timber. The stumps are twisted by the tempest wrath. But that I knew these places are my own, I'd ask how came such wretchedness to cumber the earth, and I to people it alone. It rains across the country, I remember. It's autumn in the country, I remember. It's cold abroad the country, I remember. It's empty down the country, I remember. It's lonely in the country, I remember. It's dark about the country, I remember. It
How smoking is that tune?
Wow.
Well, it's unusual.
Who is that?
That was Liova and the Contraband, which we'll link to it from the website. But that's Lev Zherbin, who plays viola, and I'm not sure he was actually featured too prominently on that track, but his lovely wife, Inna Barmash Zherbin, was singing that, and they're Russian. And they have this amazing... And I wrote a review of this song, and I've become friends with them, and John discovered them. He discovered them in a gypsy, sort of Russian gypsy band called Romashka, 2 years ago. Yep. And we played a song called La Cercuma de la Drum, which is maybe the drum circle or something. I don't know.
Drum.
And I love ethnic music, just like ethnic food. It has amazing flavors, guamki, pierogi.
That's what's so great about Utica.
Yeah, we have all this amazing ethnicity here.
It's Italian and Polish.
And Bosnian.
And now it's Bosnian.
And Lebanese.
Oh, yeah,
That's
we've got a
true.
lot of Lebanese.
And Jamaican soul food in Hampshire.
We do.
Too.
We have a couple of good restaurants.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a Jamaican
Genesee
influence?
Street. Yeah, there's I just had a great Jamaican meal the other day with a guy who just got out of prison after being in prison for 27 years.
He was a jerk. Ha! Get it? Jamaican jerk. Anyway.
You're a funny guy.
No, wait a minute. Let me talk about this, though. So I emailed them, and I kind of told Inna, this woman who was singing on this track, I said, that song blew my freaking mind. I mean, it's got this like sultry sophistication, like an Argentine tango, but it has that Eastern European klezmer sort of flavor. And then they throw in a muted trumpet, which totally comes out of like jazz. And who's the great trumpeter? I'm not remembering his
Louis
name.
Armstrong?
Not Louis, but the more modern guy.
Miles Davis.
He throws in this muted trumpet, which is a flavor that's totally never heard in this kind of music.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by the production of that song, and I was like, holy shit, that thing was amazing.
Well, the reason why I said unusual when it stopped playing is because normally we have these upbeat tunes that are similar to this, these ethnic tunes, where they don't really have a whole lot of variation, where they'll start playing, maybe they'll have a little bridge in the middle, and then they'll continue playing. This had this arc where it just built and built and built
And there was sort of this crescendo where it got really loud, and then they kind of backed it down again, very sexy. Sultry sophistication was kind of the word I used to describe it, and I sent this amazing email to her, and I didn't get a reply. Not even a thank you,
Well, she was probably creeped out by you.
She may have been, actually, I don't know. But, on a more serious note, this election, and you wouldn't know because you haven't heard our show before, but John knows that I predicted that the American electorate was not going to vote for either a black man or a woman in this election. And I sit here wrong, by the way.
You should get used to that feeling.
Yeah, I should. I sit here as a man.
Let's torture this guy, all right?
No, I'm just saying. It's
I
a
was
good thing
wrong.
to go through being wrong every
No,
once in a
I don't
while.
have a problem with being wrong. But how about, but two remarkable things happened that allowed this to happen, right? George Bush soiled the reputation of the Republican. His approval rating right now is lower than O.J. Simpson's was in 1993, whenever or thereabouts, whenever the initial O.J. hearings, trials were. And we had this huge economic crash 6 weeks before Election Day.
You mean lower than Bonanza right before it went off the air?
Listen, don't knock the hoss man, all right? Lauren Green,
Yes.
and it's not appropriate to make fun of the Bonanza curse.
Sorry.
Well,
But, all serious.
you use the word soil. He soiled more than just the Republican Party.
His undies.
He soiled everything. His undies.
He messed it everything. If there was something to mess up, he did it.
He soiled the reputation of the United States. If there was even a shred of a decent reputation, in the
And
United
Lack
States.
can speak about that because he spent some of his time in
filming
Gay Paris.
filming the soiling.
And what do Europeans like? What would they say about George Bush, and what would they say about his replacement, Mr. Barack Obama?
Well, the Europeans hate Bush. They really hate him.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Europeans really love America, and I really sincerely mean that. But they love the culture. They love they love jazz. They like blues. They like American television, American films. That kind of stuff. But they absolutely hate American politics, and they hate. Most American politics. They like Kennedy, et cetera, but they really hated Bush in a very, very big way. Remember when the war started? Before the war started.
This version of the war?
The Iraqi war.
The second version.
The second version.
Iraq.
Remember how many people around the world demonstrated against the war?
Right.
The biggest demonstrations ever in history of the world against a single kind of attack thing.
I absolutely remember that.
And the Europeans have not forgotten that. Who listened to anybody? Who listened to those demonstrators? No one.
Right.
So,
Well,
you know.
And I seem to recall after 9/11, the horrific attacks of 9/11, you know, the world stood in sympathy and in empathy with the United States of America, and Bush managed to freak that up
Totally,
too,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, we were these victims, and
I mean,
he
that
managed to-
could have been a really great sort of Mahatma Gandhi moment,
Right.
where you don't answer violence with violence, because you know, at that point it was one of those critical moments in history where if they handled that differently, the world would have taken another shift, another direction, but they couldn't.
Right.
They
You know
blew
what,
it,
though?
man.
And I'm not defending George Bush here, but I don't think the American people would stand for an attack on their soil without some
absolutely
sort of
wouldn't.
economic, or not economic, but without some sort of military response. So my friend Matt, who is an economic consultant, or I'm sorry, he's an environmental consultant in D.C. We're going to have him on the show. You'd like him. He's a Polak, too. Oganowski, he's got a ski.
Wow.
And,
we should do like the Polish shores.
That's right. Kick him off. Get out of here.
No, we need a straight man to, like, you know.
He's not straight. He was the happiest. When Lance Bass came out of the closet, he was the happiest man in the world.
You need an Italian to straighten everything out.
Who's Lance Bass?
Insane.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, watch Dancing with the Stars.
Okay,
You'll know.
right.
But, I mean, yeah. So we have this amazing confluence, this amazing, you know, circumstance that came together. We had this economic crash, which means I'm never going to be employed again in my life, and I'm going to be homeless any day. And of course, we have George Bush Jr. soiling the reputation of the Republican Party to the point where America elected a black man. I mean, this blows my mind.
You know,
because
Berlusconi called him the guy with the suntan.
Yeah, he did. I remember. I remember.
this
reading
blows
about
my
that.
mind because I consider myself, and John and I have talked about this, and I think we're all born racists. We all fear things that are different than us. But the reality is, you know, we have to look at it and question why we fear these things. And if it's something as stupid and arbitrary as the color of someone's skin, then it is stupid and arbitrary. And then with intellect, we overcome those fears. But, you know, I think there are so many Americans who are still what my friend Matt calls latent racists, you know, and it blows my mind that we have a black president-elect right now.
I'm afraid of pit bulls. Does that make me a dog hater?
Absolutely.
I mean, you know,
You're a hater, not a lover.
Yeah, no, because I've gotten bitten by one almost. I don't know about this. I don't know about your theory. Maybe you're right. I don't know if we are all haters.
Well, no, I think
I don't
deep
think
down,
little kids are born haters. you know?
everything I learned from Star Trek. And and Captain Kirk said, we're all killers, but today we choose not to kill.
Well, that's television dialogue. It was a good writer.
It was Gene Roddenberry and
always,
William Shatner.
You know, I love it when people quote films and television. You know, it's like, okay, well, this is the reality. It's like quoting the Bible. You know, yes, it's fun. You know?
whoa! Come on, we got a Bible thumper over here.
Well, I think it's a huge leap to say that I'm a Bible thumper.
You're-
When have you ever heard me thump a Bible?
Well, you know, okay, I couldn't think of a good punchline,
Well,
so
there
I
you
got
go.
nothing right now. If I was a little quicker, I'd have something, but I got nothing right now other than, you know, the Tomb of the Unknown Plumber. That's all I got, and I had to steal that to get it.
You know what I like about this radio thing that you guys are doing, that we're all doing?
Nothing.
There's the narrative, right? There's like some weird narrative that gets developed, and then you interrupt the narrative.
That's what we do.
And then you go back to the narrative, and you interrupt, and then you get into all these levels of various different narratives.
That's
And
our
this is-
shtick,
and this is
actually. That's
great.
what we do.
And this is what I'm going to go back to Camera War, okay? Just to pull it back there.
We haven't gone there yet, but next week we are.
But this is exactly what I want to do with what I'm trying to do with Camera War, and also in terms of filmmaking, the form of the film. You know, it's like we've gotten to this point where I'm not interested in watching a film about, let's say, abortion or something for 90 minutes or whatever. Right. I want to have interruptions where you have a lot of different levels of stories that are interacting and cutting away and blah, 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 and then you move to something else.
Well, one of our listeners...
And that's why I love this kind of thing.
Because it's more real. It's more realistic.
Exactly,
John and I have a conversation. So many podcasts out there sound like people are reading a script or they're mic shy and they're like, hi, my name is... John and I have a real conversation, and we've included you today. But we have a listener from Canada.
We apologize.
We apologize, actually, for including you.
I won't piss in this room, okay?
Well, you could, actually. It's okay. It wouldn't
Marking
be the
your
first. It
territory.
wouldn't be the first time. But we have a listener named Deborah from Canada who I'm not sure listens so much anymore. But that's one thing that she said that she liked about our show. I throw these little barbs out at John while he's speaking to kind of throw him little curveballs and knock him off. And I don't knock him off topic. And he does the same thing to me. And every once in a while, we'll both agree that one of them is amusing and we'll have a little chuckle. And then we get back on on message as the Democratic
that's
and Republican
reality.
candidates.
But that's
what
reality.
happens in the real world.
I mean, you sit down, you have a drink with someone at a bar, you have these types of conversations. It's not like you were saying, if you watch a film that's about something, they're so intent on sending this message.
Right. And it's usually propaganda, by the way.
Oh, sure.
You know, whether it's a filmmaker's propaganda or somebody's, it's like this propaganda thing, you know?
Right, but they're so intent on the message or the plot or the story that everything, the dialogue, the conversation is so unrealistic.
Right.
It's unbearable sometimes.
Yeah.
It feels like you're eating Frosted Flakes constantly.
Yeah.
We've completely blown our format out of the water, by the way. We actually have a format for the
You do?
show.
Okay.
We would do intro, where we would talk about, what happened in the last week in the news. And then we play a song, and then we do the meat topic, which is maybe, the election. And then we play another song, and then I do a film review. And it's usually something that an independent film that I've seen at Munson. And then we have parting words and we say goodbye. Not doing any film reviews. We've only played one song instead
fun.
of two, and it's all your fault.
Sorry. Well, what I also like about this is I just want to draw this picture because I'm a filmmaker, right? So this is a movie I'm going to show you. I'm sitting between these two guys. So one's on my left, one's on my right.
And he's groping me inappropriately, I might add.
And in the middle is this big monitor, which is not really functioning. It's a screen.
Well, it is
but it's lit.
functioning.
It's functioning, kind of, but it's not doing what it should do.
It's a very expensive timekeeper.
But it's like Roosevelt's fireplace here.
Yeah, that's right. You can hear the crackling in the background.
I could put that
Jimmy
on screen.
Carter did the Fireside Talks too.
Did he? Oh, did he? Okay,
Yeah, in the
sorry.
70s.
Okay,
No, they both did.
They
it.
do? Okay,
Yeah.
I went way back. But I just want to draw this picture because it's very cool, Voila.
Well, there it is.
And there it is.
That's us in a nutshell with a fireplace.
We got the fireplace.
This is a 21st century fireplace.
That's right.
It's very expensive. I took great pains to bring it here, and all it does is we hit one button and it plays a
It
song.
plays our music. Well, you know what? We're actually really long now. So
a screen, by the way.
So we're gonna close out this show. Lex is gonna come back next week. How fortunate! And we're gonna talk about a little project that he's got going. But I just wanted to say I'm thrilled to be producing episodes of Bloodthirsty Vegetarians again, despite the fact that I have to do them with John Tallarico.
That is my name.
That's right. You have nothing to say?
I've got nothing to say.
That's your only reply to that?
Well, I'm used to the abuse.
You're used to the abuse. Yeah. I'm Gary Abusey, as they've been saying on Celebrity
Rehab.
Or John got me to watch this show on VH1 called Celebrity Rehab.
I've been
and I was
watching
like,
television in this country for the last 2 weeks. For the last 3 months, driving around and shooting, and I've been watching this shit television here. You have 1,000 stations, right? 1,000 channels, and they're all like incredibly. I mean, they're so bad that I like them.
And
well,
that's the
part
thing.
of it, yeah.
It's like
I think Middle America agrees with you.
You pop open a bag of potato chips and you say, "Oh, look at the contents of this is horrible." And you taste them, and then after 4 bags, you say, "These are really bad." And then after the 7th bag, you say, "Oh, that's really bad." But
It's
you
sort of
keep
like
eating them.
it's sort of like when you have a party and you're drinking kind of beer because you couldn't afford a keg of the really good stuff. By the 8th glass, it
It's
doesn't
okay.
freaking
Yeah,
matter.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
swill and you're drinking it. Anyway, do you have anything to say about being back on the air here? How about
I'm absolutely thrilled.
he's John? I'm looking at him
I'm
right now.
ecstatic.
Ecstatic.
He has,
It made me ebullient.
he has tears in his eyes.
Actually,
Well, they're somewhere, but they're not in my eyes.
it reminds me of an episode of Taxi years ago where somebody told a joke and the guy wouldn't laugh and he'd point at his throat and go, "I'm laughing in here." Anyway,
On the
John's
inside.
crying anywhere.
Well, you know what?
I don't,
The klaxon indicates that we are done.
yeah, the klaxon is our universal German U-boat sound that we are done with the episode, and we want to thank Lek for hanging out with us and
Thanks a lot, guys.
indulging us
Thank you.
and contributing and filming us, actually.
Yeah.
And we
Can
gonna-
I use that footage?
I totally want you to use
Thank
that
you,
footage.
Thank you.
As long as we get a copy.
All right,
That's
no
right.
problem.
My name is Rich Wilgus.
I am John Tallarico.
Lech Kowalski.
Lek Kowalski, and we are the Bloodthirsty Vegetarians +1.
My mother loves your name, by the way.
Wielgosz?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool. And
She's
I don't,
Polish.
Yeah, that's right.
I get it.
I don't even know where we're going here, but we will
If she
be
was
back.
Italian, she'd love your name too.
I'm sure she would.
We will be back in a week, and Lek is going to be back talking about Camera War, his little project that he's got going. So we'll see you then.
All right.